Laura was just about to use a thing called desperate measures. What the hell is that?
Brendan Lee Mulligan's Campaign 4 of Critical Role has introduced a really interesting new homebrew rule. And should you use it at your table? Stick around and I'll explain the newly introduced desperate measures system, the good and the bad of it, what tables should use this rule, and then my version of the desperate measures system. Before we get too deep into that though, every month I come out with 2024 rules compatible subclass PDFs. And last month I came out with the Multiversal Sorcery Sorcerer. This is a sorcerer that thematically can tap into the experiences of alternate versions of themselves throughout the multiverse. Mechanically, it is akin to the Moon Druid, but instead of wild shaping into beast, you can wild shape into humanoids. So if that sounds interesting to you, go ahead and check my Patreon down below and get excited because next week I'm coming out with the Passion Domain Cleric. With that out of the way though, let's go ahead and get into the rules. So first of all, I feel like these rules are definitely more suited to tables like Critical Role or tables that aren't power gamers. I feel like some of the abilities could be abused at a table of power gamers, but if your players are very committed to role-playing, like the Critical Role cast, then I feel like this homebrew rule could work well at your table. I personally DM for a game that I feel like these homebrew rules would work out fine, but I also play in a different campaign as a player, and I feel like we're too much into power gaming to be able to use these rules responsibly. Well, let's go ahead and get into them though. The system is called Desperate Measures, and this is how it works. At the start of your turn, while you are bloodied, you may mark one or more death saving throw failures off. These failures persist until you finish a long rest. In exchange, you gain one of the following benefits immediately based on the number of fails you mark. So typically, when you get dropped to 0 hit points and you start making death saving throws, those death saving throws all go away once you get brought back up to 1 HP. But these death saving throws aren't going to be working that way. They will persist until you finish a long rest. And you can only use this when you're bloodied, which makes the Desperate Measures naming scheme very thematic. And here is the kicker though. If you are reduced to 0 hit points, you begin making death saving throws with any failures marked from this rule already applied. If you have 3 marked failures when reduced to 0 hit points, you die immediately. So yeah, especially at low levels, this is a very risky rule. But also I think there's a little context I should add as well. In Campaign 4, if I'm not mistaken, they have another homebrew rule where there isn't really resurrection magic. So I feel like if you're playing like Tomb of Annihilation, this would be a way to spice it up a bit. Or if you just have resurrection magic not work in your game, then this could also make it a little more spicy. But also at low levels, dying is rough. So there's that. Oh yeah, and for bloodied, a creature is bloodied while it has half of its hit points or fewer. Let's go ahead and go over the options though. So one death saving throw failure, you can choose between these 3 options. You can take the dash or disengage action, no action required, and this is at the start of your turn, by the way. You can add +5 to a d20 roll you just failed. But remember, this is at the start of your turn, so basically you have to decide to use Desperate Measures and this option prior to there being a d20 test. So that's something to keep in mind. And then you can re-roll a failed attack roll. Again, I'm pretty sure you have to decide this before you fail an attack roll. You have to decide this before you fail a d20 roll. So yeah, that's something to keep in mind. It's a little clunky in my opinion, but the dash and disengage is super solid, especially if you're trying to get out of danger. Being able to disengage and then you could still dash with your action, or if you're a monk or rogue, you could also do another dash. Like you could really get out of danger pretty easily with this ability. And one death save failure isn't that crazy. Then we got 2 death save failures. When you hit with an attack, its damage dice deal maximum damage. And again, remember, just like the other ability, this is something you decide at the start of your turn. So you're not sure if that turn you're going to hit, and it's not like a smite where you can decide to use it afterwards. So that's something to keep in mind. If this happens when you crit, that'll be amazing. But this is also only beneficial to characters that make attack rolls. If you're a specific kind of caster that does mostly saving throw spells, rolls, then this isn't that useful. And then you can risk it all for 3 death saving throw failures, and you can choose between 2 of these. You can immediately take the attack action or magic action, or you regain 1 expended spell slot of 5th level or lower. So yeah, those are relatively solid. One thing I find very interesting about these though is I feel like they all feel a little random and they're not really that universally beneficial. I don't know. I just feel like I would almost never take this option, the 3 death save failures, especially because it's limited to the attack action or magic action. Getting to cast a free spell is pretty sweet, but it's still limited by the spellcasting rules where you can only cast 1 leveled spell per turn. So yeah, what do you guys think of these rules, and would you use them at your table? I'm curious what you guys think down below, but I want to now share with you my version that I think, obviously in my opinion, I'm very biased, is better. I'll go ahead and share. So in my version, this is how it works. At the start of your turn or as a reaction while you are bloodied, you may mark 1 or more death saving throw failures off. These failures persist until you finish a long rest. In exchange, you gain all of the following benefits immediately based on the number of failures you mark. So instead of choosing one of the 3, if you choose the 3 death saves option, you get all the benefits from all the other death saving throw options, if that makes sense. Also, instead of just being able to do it at the start of your turn, you can also do it as a reaction. Everything else is the same. And then when we get to the 1 death saving throw failure, you may take the dash or disengage actions, no action required, and you gain a heroic inspiration. This is so that if you're like a monk or a rogue, or you're not in a situation where you need to take the dash or disengage action, at the very least, you can gain heroic inspiration, which gives you a free reroll of any dice. And I feel like that's pretty solid, especially for 1 death save failure. Like you could do this 3 times during a long rest and feel pretty good about it, in my opinion. But also keep in mind for the 2 death save failures and the 3 death save failures, you get these as well. So remember that. The 2 death save failures, you choose one of the following. When you make a d20 test, you can treat the roll as a roll of 20. So you can automatically get a crit for 2 death save failures. That's pretty nice. But also you could like automatically succeed a saving throw. Basically you get a legendary resistance, which I think is really nice. Or when you roll 1 or more dice to restore hit points, don't roll those dice for the healing. Instead, use the highest number possible for each die. This is so if you're like a healing focused class and you're trying to, you know, keep your party alive, you're able to do that well. And then when an enemy makes a d20 test, you can treat the roll as a roll of 1. So yeah, it's very strong, but that's kind of the point. And this is essentially like you rolled the best portent dice and you're a diviner wizard. But yeah, again, remember, this is not for power gaming tables. This is for more roleplay focused tables. And it's not like this goes through legendary resistance or anything. So keep that in mind. And then 3 death save failures, you can take 1 additional action. Instead of being limited to the magic action or the attack action, this just gives you free reign to do whatever you would like for your action. You could do a utilize action. You could do dodge, dash, disengage. Again, basically you're in a really, really bad spot and you're exerting your body significantly to the point where if you take enough damage, you will die instantly. So yeah, I feel like this is appropriate, especially for the cost and especially for the context of the tables we're talking about this being played at. So yeah, what do you guys think of my fixes? Do you think it's too strong? Do you think it's just right? How do you think it compares to the quote unquote official Desperate Measure rules? Let me know down below. Also guys, I recently became friends with a fellow YouTuber and I want you guys to check out his channel because he's trying to get up to 3,000 subscribers. His name is DSR. So go check out his channel. We're going to be doing some collabs. He actually reviewed one of my PDFs recently, my Inquisitor Rogue. And also I am going to be announcing in this video, my goal is to get to 10,000 subscribers by the end of the year. So help out DSR, help me with that, and let's get to it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Have a great rest of your day. Peace out.